That was legendary. That was epic. That was the icon Sting. AEW Revolution 2024 has come and gone, and so has the career of one of the best and most respected professional wrestlers of all time, Steve Borden, known more popularly to the wrestling world as Sting, has retired. He has had his final match, and it was a hell of a time. I'm going to be talking about that, an amazing match between Konosuke Takeshita and Will Osprey, an overall awesome AEW Revolution pay-per-view. Sit back, relax, because there is a lot to cover. I'm Umar Q for Real Take Wrestling. Welcome to all the live homies. If you're joining us live, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Let me know in the chat for all the live homies what you thought of the show. If you're watching on demand, be sure to drop your thoughts in the comments section. AEW Revolution, wow. This was a show that, had a lot of mystique, had a lot of it had an air of interest around it from people who don't even consider themselves, I think, like big AEW fans. But I think this was just an epic show. I mean, you want to talk about delivering in the biggest possible way. I think this show did deliver. Like you know, the NXT stand and deliver. This stood and delivered, and I think a lot of it is due to, obviously, the fact that you have the icon Sting, his final match in All Elite Wrestling. But what tonight really proved is that AEW has managed to, in a way, kind of restore the feeling of past pay-per-views. And AEW has been putting on great pay-per-views, just like nothing. Like, it's the most effortless thing in the world. Even last year when their TV was up and down, in 2022 when their TV was up and down, their pay-per-view game was still strong. However, one thing that, has been missing has been, the air of this feels special. This feels big. We got it, obviously, with All In last year, but we've been missing, that special feeling. And tonight really restored it. I mean, this was... I'm not going to say like this is an all-time AEW pay-per-view because we say that about every single one they have, and then it ends up being like, oh, in retrospect, that wasn't, top 10 or top 5. It was maybe top 10. This, I will say, the moment at the end was an all-time moment in wrestling history because you got to see Sting go out on his terms in a way that most people would be extremely envious of, most professional wrestlers would be envious of, but you got to see it at the grandest, like on one of the grandest stages you could have it on at AEW Revolution. 16,000 plus packing the Greensboro Coliseum to witness Sting's final match. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, but we've got an entire pay-per-view card to cover. Of course, we started things off with the TNT Championship, Christian Cage, and of course, the one, the only Daniel Garcia going one-on-one for the TNT title. This was pretty much what we expected. A really good match. I think this was probably one of the best matches you could do to open the show. If I had my way, I would have had the world title match probably open the show. That way you kind of have, something special in the beginning and, really get the fans into it and get them thinking about what's going to happen the whole night. But the interesting thing about the way this card was structured is that you had, a lot of the undercard matches. Like, this was a card that had a very strong, heavyweight, a very strong upper card, and then, not a weak lower card by any means at all, but it had a lower card. And it's obvious if you look at the different matches on this card, it's obvious to tell which one fits where. But obviously the TNT Championship probably fell into the lower card a bit. Still a good match. Christian Cage, of course, picked up the victory. A spear reversed by Daniel Garcia as Christian Cage fell. So Christian Cage went for the spear. He fell on his way because his knee collapsed. And then it allowed Daniel Garcia to pick up, a solid pile driver. And then he sold me a ticket with that. They sold me a ticket because Daniel Garcia hits Christian Cage with a pile driver. And I'm just sitting there like, what? What is going on? Because I didn't think Christian Cage would lose like that. However, he almost did. Then, of course, Nick Wayne, the son of Christian Cage, got involved. And Christian Cage, kill switch for the win. Bit of a predictable result. I was hoping that, Adam Copeland would come back, potentially costing Christian Cage the AEW World Championship. The TNT Championship. However, that did not happen. Instead, we got, of course, Christian Cage remaining the TNT champion. The coolest part of this match was a spot where Daddy Magic came out, because Kill Switch, Mother Wayne, and, Nick Wayne were all ganging up on poor Daniel Garcia. And who else? Who better, I should say, to stand up to a bully of a father than Daniel Garcia's storyline father at this point, Daddy Magic. Daddy Magic came out, cleaned house with Kill Switch. It was shocking to me. I couldn't believe that, but he cleaned house with Kill Switch and got him the hell out of there. Christian Cage retains, but I think this story is going to continue. I think potentially look for a tag team match down the line, maybe at AEW Big Business, and then maybe that is where we get the return of Edge. Adam Copeland. We got Blueprint in the chat saying Sting is in my top 5 GOATs. It is hard to argue with that because, my God, I mean, I was waiting till the end to talk about this, but I'll talk about Sting's career just quickly right now because, my God, this is someone who is arguably the most respected wrestler of all time. I think it's fair to say. There are a few other people who are kind of in that category of respected, and the people who people say, are some of the nicest professional wrestlers of all time. Sting really is that. Sting embodies exactly what fans, other wrestlers, and, people who love the business, he embodies every single thing a professional wrestler should be. From his work ethic to his selflessness. And I discussed this in a video over at youtube.com/WrestleVibes. Sting's selflessness has been the reason that he's had such staying power, has been the reason that he has been so respected by fans and other wrestlers alike, because you have so many other wrestlers out there who are, all-time greats in the eyes of, the history books and the records and all that kind of stuff, but they're also all-time pieces of crap. There is not a person who's worked, I think, with Sting. There's not a person who has shared a locker room with Sting that, to my knowledge, has ever said a bad word about him. This is someone who has been in several different locker rooms, WCW, WWE, TNA, AEW. He's been almost everywhere, NWA, New Japan. And wherever he's been, he has been respected. He has been beloved. And he has been an icon. And there's only a few handful of guys who can say they've been, one of the nicest guys in the business and truly one of the greats. Like, you got Mick Foley, Owen Hart, Bryan Danielson is someone that people hold in that light. But Sting really is that, and he was that during a time in a generation where that wasn't, the norm to do. Sting wasn't, Sting was like, the not the prevailing, sentiment, the prevailing type of person in professional wrestling, the prevailing type of wrestler. A lot of the times, these wrestlers were not great people. However, Sting, and one thing that people say about him a lot, is that as good as he is a wrestler, as great as he is an entertainer, as legendary as his career was, he was an even better man. And we'll talk about his final match because, my God, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. He promised a spectacle, and hard to argue that man did not deliver because, my goodness, he put on a show for the ages, to say the least. Guys, if you're just joining us, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We'll get this more to Sting's final match. I really want to talk about that in full because, that was so good. That was so good. Let's see if we can power through some of these other things. Continental Crown on the line. Bryan Danielson going up against Eddie Kingston. According to my notes, we got this was really cool. So pre-match, the announcers, both Lexi and Renee, were both backstage at individual points, as the wrestlers were going out, as Bryan and Eddie Kingston were going out for their entrances. And it was a real cool, change of scenery and change of pace, because usually you don't see something like that in professional wrestling. I think it's a nice little wrinkle you could do, maybe especially for Eddie Kingston matches or the Continental Crown matches. But match kicked off. These two obviously have a lot of chemistry. They had a lot of chemistry when they faced off the first time in the Continental Classic, and now this time they just absolutely beat the living crap out of each other. The power, Dana White, we hate him here, but Dana White would be proud of some of the power slaps that Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson gave each other in this match. It's just, man, what a hard-hitting matchup. If it wasn't for the Osprey Takeshita matchup, this would have been the most hard-hitting match of the night. Yep, nope, not even close compared to what we saw later down the line. But story of the match, obviously, was, respect. Eddie Kingston was trying to gain the respect of Bryan Danielson. It doesn't matter that Eddie beat him in the Continental Classic. It doesn't matter that Eddie Kingston is the Continental Crown champion. Bryan Danielson still does not respect Eddie Kingston. And the story that they told in this match is one of Eddie working his ass off, Eddie fighting and reeling the entire match to try and get that respect from the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. Interesting note, Bryan did bring back the yes chant. So this is a cool little thing. So Bryan, when he came to AEW, said that he was not going to be doing the yes chants. He said he was not going to be doing the yes chants. He said that they are WWE's intellectual property, which Tony Khan immediately in the same press conference was like, I don't know about all that. We'll see. But he's been slowly but surely getting, I think, a little bit more comfortable. He did them in New Japan, at the Wrestle Kingdom show, just straight up. And tonight they came back straight up. Bryan Danielson doing the yes chants. We love to see it. Crowd went crazy. We will talk about this Greensboro crowd because they were absolutely nuts tonight. End of the match, Eddie Kingston hit a power bomb on the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, after reversing the Psycho knee. 1, 2, 3. Eddie Kingston retains and is still the Continental Crown champion. End of the match. Of course, match was about respect. Eddie Kingston waiting for the respect. Bryan Danielson, one of the founding fathers of Ring of Honor Professional Wrestling, a company that was founded upon the rules of honor, upon the rules of engagement, upon the rules of respect. And after thinking about it for a very long time, Bryan Danielson finally gave Eddie Kingston the respect that he has earned. He gave him a handshake, raised his hand in victory, led the crowd in an Eddie chant, and the respect has been earned. We love to see it. This is a full circle moment for Eddie Kingston, and I was so happy about this. We got Ryan in the chat saying, "Hi, bro. What are your thoughts on WWE 2K game? And 8, you gonna review the game?" I am not gonna review the game because I don't really play video games too much outside of like FIFA and NFL Madden. But yeah, we did a giveaway and we might do another one? Question mark. So stay tuned for that. When is the next time you will be on? I will definitely be on Wednesday for that show because Kazuchika Okada is expected to, made debut for AEW on Wednesday night in Georgia. So check out Dynamite and check out my stream, AEW Dynamite live review stream right after the show on Wednesday. So 2 matches down, a bunch more to go. Up next, we have the meat match. Okay. We call this the meat match, but really it was the, what do they call it? The All-Star Scramble. By the way, look, this is something that I both love and hate about AEW sometimes. AEW is a professional wrestling company. Let me be clear about that. They are a professional wrestling company. And you know how they're a professional wrestling company? They will call this the All-Star Scramble, and have Brian Cage, Magnus, and Dante Martin in it, as well as Lance Archer, who is look, all of those guys have immense talent. Dante Martin, I think, is a future world champion. Brian Cage is someone who people thought at one point could be a future world champion. I think he's someone who's great in the ring. Lance Archer has all the potential to be the biggest monster heel in the company, and at times he has been. Magnus is just very new. He's extremely talented, but he's very, very new to this crowd. And all that to say, these guys aren't exactly people you would think of as all-stars, correct? And I understand it's just a name, but calling it the All-Star Scramble match is a bit of a stretch when half the people in here aren't even close to be considered all-stars. You could say that about Powerhouse Hobbs, Chris Jericho, and Wardlow. Sure, all of them former champions. Chris Jericho, a former world champion. That's fine. However, to say that Brian Cage and Magnus, come on. Let's be honest. Let's just be honest about this. I'm fine with all of the. I'm totally fine with all of the hoopla that goes on in professional wrestling, but this was just, the name was kind of got to me. Anyway, Wardlow, Chris Jericho, Powerhouse Hobbs, the Murder Hawk monster Lance Archer, the Machine Brian Cage, Magnus, and Dante Martin. All-Star AEW Scramble match. Winner gets a shot at the AEW World Championship sometime down the line. This was Wardlow's match to lose. Wardlow did, in fact, win this match. We got a few meat spots, which I really marked out for. Lance Archer, Powerhouse Hobbs, Brian Cage, and Wardlow. Some of the roidiest people in AEW. Absolutely slapping meat. Shout out to you, Big E. Yeah, this was 15 minutes of nice meat. Get it? Anyway. Okay. So, of course, Wardlow won the match. He pinned Dante Martin, who you could argue one of the people that you would expect to be pinned here. And now the Undisputed Kingdom has a victory tonight. And Wardlow's starting to follow through on his promise to bring home the AEW World Championship to the Undisputed Kingdom. Okay, great. Considering the result of the world title match, which we will get into later down the line, be sure to hit that like button, by the way. It's going to be interesting when exactly Wardlow decides to cash in or when exactly, this match is going to be slated for. Because if it's one of those things where Wardlow, has to wait until, Dynasty, I think, maybe you have some time to build this up a bit more. If it's like he has until, or he's going to do it at Big Business, I think that could be a potential mistake because you could be not robbing anyone, but I think it could be a potential mistake just because, I don't know. I just don't want to see, trying to figure out where exactly to put this. But I don't know. I just don't want to see, them kind of waste this moment, especially as Wardlow is so hot right now. Especially with that promo, at least with me. He's hot with me. Guys, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I did a poll. I put up a poll about AEW Revolution on the community page. 102 votes. 56% of you thought it was a good pay-per-view. Only 3% said bad. Bad. What am I, a sheep? Only 3% said bad. 7% said meh. And 34% did not watch. Well, if you did not watch this show, I highly recommend you check it out, at least for that main event. Regardless of how tribal you are, that main event absolutely killed it, knocked it out of the park, 10 out of 10. All right. So that was a scramble match. Then we had Roderick Strong, Orange Cassidy, AEW International Championship on the line. Of course, a lot of people believed that, Roderick Strong was going to win. And the entire match was kind of built around Roderick Strong working on the injured back of Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy, on the pre-show, was told by Doc Sampson that he could not compete unless Doc Sampson was allowed to tape up his back and his ribs because he's been so put through the ringer, so injured at this point by wrestling each and every week on Dynamite, defending his AEW International Championship at all costs to all comers. No matter what the situation is, he is there. Because of that, he is very injured. And Roderick Strong is a very intelligent professional wrestler. Regardless of how silly his gimmick is, he's a smart guy. He's going to work your ribs. He's going to work your back. That's exactly what he did. Hit the backbreaker. 1, 2, 3. 12 minutes later, Roderick Strong, the new AEW International Champion. And again, 2 for 2 here for the Undisputed Kingdom. Wardlow winning the World Championship Scramble match. And then Roderick Strong here winning the International Championship. 2 things that they said that they were going to achieve in AEW. The Undisputed Kingdom right now, man. People said, they're getting cold. I think they're just starting to heat up. But what everyone's really talking about, because look, as great as Roderick Strong is, as great as the victory is for him, as great as, I'm sure his title run is going to be, everyone was talking about what happened right afterwards. Because right after this, we all saw the return of former Undisputed Era / Undisputed Elite member Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle O'Reilly, who has not been seen on AEW TV in nearly 2 years. Someone who at one point, people believed his career was over. There was not much optimism. If you go read a FightfulSelect.com report that's up right now, there was not a lot of optimism, just a few months ago about whether or not he was going to be ready. And then, things kind of came together and he is finally back. Roderick Strong comes up. He returns right after, Kyle O'Reilly, returns. He comes up behind Roderick Strong and the Kingdom, looking very angry. And then as he comes face to face with his former Undisputed Era teammate, they look at each other, they smile, and Roderick Strong gives him a big old hug. Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong in the middle of the ring, hugging it out. Matt Taven and Matt Bennett absolutely loving it. Bennett even taking the Undisputed Kingdom shirt off his back, handing it to Kyle O'Reilly as he looks at it and says, not today. He then takes the shirt, puts it around the shoulder of Roderick Strong, whispers something that we did not hear on the broadcast in his ear, and walks away looking emotional. After a 2-year absence, Kyle O'Reilly is back in All Elite Wrestling. I discussed this in a video that I posted on the channel, so go check that out if you have not already done so. But man, oh man, this was freaking cool. Like, we were all wondering, and I mentioned this in the video that I posted earlier, we were all wondering, you know, what potential surprise could be on the horizon for tonight. Like, who could return, who would be, you know, showing up, what could happen. And because here's the thing, we knew that Mercedes is obviously going to probably debut a big business. There are reports out there that Okada is pretty much expected to appear this coming Wednesday. So what's the big shock? What's the big return? What's something special for AEW Revolution? Well, it turns out it was Kyle O'Reilly. And that's the interesting thing, man. Like, and I know a lot of people have this criticism of AEW that, oh my God, they have a return or a debut every single week. And I understand, like, you know, like people can get up in throw a fuss and a fit about all that. I understand. And to an extent, I kind of agree with it. However, this case, like, this is a guy who's returning. This is a guy who, you know, you were kind of holding, it looks like, at least from what we're hearing, they were kind of holding on his return a little bit for a special moment like this. I think this was perfect. Have him return here, have him come back, have him tell a great story with the Undisputed Kingdom. Kyle O'Reilly's back. Bring back Bobby now. It's time. Bring back Bobby, and you know what? I might have to do a fantasy booking video of who him and Bobby might be teaming up with to counteract Adam Cole. From one devil to another. Wink. Subscribe and hit that notification bell, everyone. But yeah, overall awesome match. Stay hydrated, my friends. And an awesome moment for Kyle O'Reilly. Big shout out to Kyle O'Reilly. He's been through so much, actually, like, and to see him like return, you could see the emotion on his face too. He was absolutely like he loved the ovation that he got from the crowd, and it was a well-deserved ovation. Like, there's not a lot of like I talked about like good guys in wrestling, man. Like Kyle O'Reilly, like from everything you hear about him, is also one of those good guys in professional wrestling. So shout out to him. Glad he's back, and can't wait to see him absolutely tear it up in All Elite Wrestling. Guys, be sure to smash that like button. We got so many matches left to talk about. Up next, we have the Blackpool Combat Club versus FTR, a rematch of a match we saw a few weeks ago on television that ended in a 20-minute time limit draw. So what's the solution here? Of course, have a 30-minute time limit for this match. Do a rematch. There's probably going to be a winner. You know, there was an air of history, obviously, not just because of Sting's last match, but also because this show was in a very historic building. It was in the Greensboro Coliseum, which, you know, is known for... Excuse me as I change the light a little bit. Ooh, what do we think about that? Hold up. Yeah, that's a little better. Anyway, it's in the historic Greensboro Coliseum, 16,000 plus. And, you know, like, a lot of tonight and a lot of what you heard on commentary was kind of alluding back to, you know, the history of Greensboro, the history of wrestling in the Greensboro Coliseum. And part of that history, of course, were the Road Warriors, Animal and Hulk. So, paying tribute to them, the Blackpool Combat Club came out. Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli came out with their trademark Road Warriors, Legion of Doom, whatever you want to call them, gear on, like the football gear with the spikes. It looked really cool. It fit them, honestly. It really fit them. And, you know, it was honestly really cool to see them do that. So they come out, FTR come out, match gets started right away. They did not waste time getting into it. I'm going to go to my handy dandy notes for this. Road Warriors tribute, Doomsday Device. This was cool. So in addition to the Road Warriors tribute in the entrance, we saw Castagnoli and Moxley do a Doomsday Device to FTR that only garnered a 2. absolutely epic. Dax got color in this match like an MFer. It was crazy. This dude was bleeding like a stuffed pig, according to JR. Like it was a nasty, nasty gash on like right above his right eye. Hopefully he's okay, although he was by far not the bloodiest person on this show. This was a bloody, bloody show. Dax was bloody. Shatter Machine on Mox only garners a 2 as Castagnoli able to break it up. And the ending of the match was a double sleeper hold. Castagnoli and Jon Moxley both putting Dax and Cash to sleep in the middle of the ring. The Blackpool Combat Club picks up the victory and are one step closer to potentially being the next AEW Tag Team Champions. And I'll tell you why when we get to our main event. But overall, I thought this was a really good match. And again, this was a show that was structured, with a really big, upper card, like a really heavy upper card, and a very good, lower card, but, still, comparatively a lower card. Like, you had Sting's last match, you had the world title match, you had the build-up for the women's world title match, and Takeshita and Osprey, and then you had everything else on the show, kind of in a similar vein. We got Blueprint in the chat saying my all-time top 5: number 5 Sting, number 4 Flair, number 3 Austin, number 2 Taker, number 1 Hogan. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. Hulk Hogan is not my number 1, not even in my top 10. But the rest of it's pretty fair, yeah. Okay, up next, what did we got? Up next, we had the women's world title match. All right, so let's talk about this because this was one of 2 women's matches on the show. They had Willow and they had Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander taking on Sky Blue and Julia Hart in a tag team match on the pre-show. So I know we've talked about the women's division. We've talked about, the need to have more stories told with the women's division. AEW has slowly been doing that more and more. I think, it's going to get better as they get Mercedes, and then they bring back, hopefully, Britt Baker, DMD, and then Jamie Hayter comes back. That's when you're really, I think, going to see this women's division shine or hopefully shine. The build-up to this match I thought was great, and the video package for this match was epic. They really sold this video package for Tony Storm versus Deonna Purrazzo. And interesting note here, in the entrance, we got Tony Storm's old theme song from AEW. And a man supposed to me. How to burn the frag and I can see the your way. I don't know the words of the song. So that's the best I can do. Without getting copyrighted. But so we had the song play, of course, and of course it wasn't actually Toni Storm because Toni Storm is the Hollywood starlet. She is she's got to be in black and white. So it was Mariah May who was dressed as Toni Storm doing that entrance, kind of playing off of, Deonna Purrazzo trying to bring out the old Toni Storm, her friend from back during the pandemic when they lived together. That did not happen. Toni Storm came out and, she was her. She was dressed in black and white. She was doing the thing. She was talking about Wendy Richter. Great video package. Really strong mat wrestling in this match. I think the crowd were kind of dead for the beginning of it, but I thought it was really strong mat wrestling. Deonna Purrazzo had the Venus de Milo locked in for a while on Toni Storm, so long that at one point I thought that she was just going to pass out and we were going to get a new champion. That did not happen. Luther had distracted the referee while Mariah May distracted Deonna Purrazzo, allowing Toni Storm to pick up the victory and retain her AEW World Championship. This match I will be honest, did not live up to the hype, if at least for me. And I don't think that it was for lack of trying. I don't think this match was booked well. I genuinely do not think this match was booked well. I think that it would have been better if they had, stuck a little bit more to the mat wrestling than they did. Because they kind of stuck to it and then they got out of it. It just never built up. It never had a crescendo. It just kind of was, it almost was like a TV quality match. And that's not something that you kind of expect to be booked this way on a pay-per-view. I thought that, Toni Storm and Deonna Purrazzo did their best with what they were given. They're two of the most talented professional wrestlers there is. But I really do think we need to get to a point, man, where, like, on pay-per-views especially, like, we need to get to a point where the booking for these women's matches is on point, because I just don't think it's been there. And, people can point to the talent all they want. It'd be the talent if it was like, one common denominator, or, like when it's like every single match on some of these women's shows, or every single women's match on some of these shows, you have to look and criticize the booking. You have to look and criticize like who's producing it. You can't just blame it on the women, because when Deonna Purrazzo was in TNA, having great matches and putting on a show on pay-per-views was not an issue. When Toni Storm wasn't in AEW, it wasn't an issue. So that's my view. I'm sure people disagree. Let me know in the chat if you do, or in the comment section. Be sure to smash that like button. But I think that there definitely is room for improvement from the booking standpoint. I hope that when, Mercedes comes in, Jennifer Pepperman hopefully is able to write something better, and hopefully the producing kind of aligns a bit too, because, man, it is the producing and booking on some of these women's stories have not been great. And it's disappointing, because I see these great wrestlers and I see the potential they have, and I feel like in a lot of ways they're being set up to fail. Just my view, of course. I don't know. I'm not backstage. Just saying from what I view as a fan. If I'm wrong, I hope that whatever the issues are gets fixed. But not saying this was this is not a bad match, but it was not a world title match. And that's the thing. And it wasn't booked like a world title match. There wasn't that much of a story told, other than the same one that we've kind of, and it's not even like they didn't like hit towards it, like the whole Toni Storm like needing help to win, and Luther and all that kind of stuff. Like, we've seen that, but at the same time, that wasn't even the story of the match. The story of the match was just kind of these two having just having a match, and again, I think it's more the booking than it is the wrestlers. But again, that's just me. Moving on, we got to talk about the match. I want to say the match of the night, but I don't know if you know what? Moving on, we're going to talk about the best professional wrestling match of 2024 so far. Konosuke Takeshita, Will Osprey. Absolute hot fire. Don Callis promised the matchup of the decade when these two collided at AEW Revolution, and he did not disappoint. You can say many things about Don Callis and the Don Callis family. One thing you can't say is that he is a liar, because he told all the real take truths when he said that this match was going to absolutely be a banger, because that's exactly what it was. These two beat the ever-living shit out of each other in a way that really rings well with me. I thought this was an epic match. That's right, I said epic 3 times. Will Ospreay's first match in AEW as a full-time wrestler, and it was evident right off the bat, right when he came down the aisle. Will Ospreay is a fucking star. 16,000 people on their feet saying his name, Osprey, when he came down. And the fact that, the fact that they were there and they were into it as much as they were, it really, I think, helped get these two to a whole nother level, because you can put two wrestlers in the ring and they can have a great match even with a bad crowd, but when the crowd's really into it, it takes them level up even more from a viewing standpoint and from an in-ring standpoint because the wrestlers feed off of that energy, and I think that's exactly what happened. This was a great crowd meets great wrestling meets great wrestlers meets absolutely epic moments. These two, like I said, beat the ever-living crap out of each other. The forearms that they were giving each other were crazy. Will Osprey delivered an elbow shot, and they did one of my least favorite spots, the whole fencing pose spot with Konosuke Takeshita. In any other scenario, that match would have been called off. It was not, but they did the fencing spot. It was obviously a work. And then Takeshita came back. He did a suplex, which I just... Oh, dear. He did a suplex off the top rope to Will Osprey, where Osprey landed on his lower back on the turnbuckle. His lower back landed on the turnbuckle, and there was a massive red and purple contusion on his lower back for the entirety of the match. It looked brutal. That man was in pain, and he still wrestled through it for another 10, 15 minutes. Absolutely awesome. I mean, go watch this match. I don't even know what else to say. Go watch this match. Osprey hit a Tiger Driver 91 on Konosuke Takeshita. He hit a Styles Clash in this match. These two beat the crap out of each other. Hidden Blade for the win. 10 stars, 15 in the Tokyo Dome. Let's go. This deserves every single star, Dave. If this is anything below a 5-star match, Dave Meltzer, my God, man. You come on. Would you come on, man? Would you just come on, man? Epic matchup, epic moment, epic stars. God, I love this match. This really, I think, is the best match of the year so far. And it proves that Will Osprey is not only a star in AEW, but he is a star, period. We all know that he's a great wrestler. The great wrestling match between him and Takeshita was expected. But he proved to a lot of, I think, doubters, people who, I'll be honest, there's a lot of people out there who talk about professional wrestling, who are YouTubers, who don't watch the product. And they talk out of their ass. And they talk about stuff they don't know anything about. And for me, right, I don't hate, you're a content creator. You got to go do your thing. You have to, put yourself out there and all that kind of stuff. That's fine. But for me, man, as someone who watches, a lot of wrestling, I'm not going to, I will tell you straight up when I don't watch something, a lot of, Raw, I fast forward through. I've been very clear about this. SmackDown I'll watch. Fully, but Raw, I fast forward through because it's mostly filler. But when I hear people say, man, I don't know if Will Osprey is a good wrestler or things like that, I'm dumbfounded at some people who say that. And it's not really people, and it's not even people I know. It's mostly people I see online, and I'm just come on, man. Are you serious? Are you serious? This is are you trolling for clicks? What's going on here? Because you can't possibly believe that Will Osprey isn't a good wrestler. You can say if you don't like his promos, that's fine. If you don't like whatever, you can't say he's not a good wrestler. He's just cap. But he also proved tonight that he could tell a story. Because this was a textbook story of these two are in a competition. And the competition is who is the best? Who is better? Who is the best and most elite member of the Don Callis family? And tonight, Will Osprey proved that he was. And I don't think we're done. Because I don't think this is the last time these two are going to wrestle. Konosuke Takeshita, by the way, he is operating at a level as far as in-ring that is top 5 in the world. That's not hyperbolic. It's him, Brian, obviously Osprey, Omega when he's healthy, and I would probably I'll put Okada in there for now. either Okada or like Tanahashi. Oh my God, Tanahashi's still operating on an elite level. But those are 5 guys who I think are operating at an elite level. And I think Takeshita is right up there with them. In ring, he is so good. It's scary. It's genuinely scary how good he is and how young he is and how effortless these things are to him. He's like 6'3". He really is like he's a unicorn. He's like a unicorn in the ring, and he's so great. He's so fun to watch. And I don't think this is the last time we're gonna see him and Osprey, because I think they are gonna build towards like the dissolution or the breakup of the Don Callis family. And if they do, I think we're gonna get another one of these matches, and I think it's gonna be a banger. Wow, go watch this match, guys. This is epic wrestling. Also, guys, if you haven't already done so, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Moving on, we had the triple threat match for the AEW World Championship. Swerve Strickland, Hangman Page, and the AEW World Champion Samoa Joe going toe to toe to toe for the biggest prize in AEW. I said this before, I'll say it again. Hangman Page, Swerve Strickland. I'm not saying they're both Hall of Famers. I'm not saying they're both it's not a one-to-one comparison. If you want to talk about rivalries and chemistry and the combination of the two and putting two people who, no matter what, these two people, I can just put them in a feud and boom, or put them in a match and boom, we're going to sell tickets and they're going to have a program for the next 2 pay-per-views. Swerve Strickland, Hangman Page are this generation's Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, as far as what they mean to each other. They could have wrestled every single pay-per-view for the rest of the year and it wouldn't be boring. In fact, I'd argue that it would get more and more exciting the more they wrestle, because you would add more and more story on top of it. Every single time they have wrestled, every single time they have been in the ring together, every single time that they have had the opportunity to tell a story together, it has not only been a success, but they have added more layers of hatred for one another. And it's not something that's easily done, but they have managed to do it and create this aura and mystique around themselves that it's literally the definition of fight forever. So, huge fan of that. let me be clear. Huge fan of that. As far as, the match goes, of course, story was Hangman Page does not want to allow Swerve to win. No matter what, his goal is to ensure that Swerve Strickland does not walk out of Greensboro as the AEW World Champion. He's going to do every single thing in his power to ensure that doesn't happen. For Swerve, it's obvious. He said it in that promo. He wants that validation. He wants that prize. He wants to be the first ever black AEW champion. And for Samoa Joe, very simple. He wants to prove that he is the best. And that he is still better than you. Wink. This was, I thought this was going to be a great match, and it was. But it was crazy. So obviously Samoa Joe is the bigger guy, and at one point we were going to get a spot where Swerve and Hangman had to work together, and it was really funny because they both delivered a power bomb off the top rope to Samoa Joe, in tandem together, and right after they did it, they did this awesome spot where they just looked at each other with disgust, because these two hate each other, and they were disgusted, not at each other, but at themselves for helping the other man some way. It was hilarious. It was epic. It was awesome. Just great. So Hangman Page, of course, his whole thing is, I can't let Swerve win. So at every turn, he's interrupting pinfalls. He's doing everything in his power to make sure he doesn't win. And I thought, one of the interesting things here was, how far is it going to go? how far is Swerve's hatred for Hangman Page going to impact this match? How is Swerve's hatred for Hangman Page potentially going to cost him that validation that he so desperately wants, that AEW World Championship? How far is he willing to go? Match went on, and Hangman at one point, Swerve basically has Joe ready, dead to rights. As the ref is counting down for a 3, Hangman Page drags Paul Turner out of the ring and incapacitates him, and he's just pissed. He grabs the world title, beats Swerve down with it, beats him again, says, Swerve, you will never be the AEW World Champion as long as I'm around. You will never be an AEW World Champion. You don't deserve it. Remember, Hangman Page's motivation for this is pure simple. It is the fact that Swerve broke into his house and threatened his child. And also the fact that Hangman to this day has not beaten Swerve. He won't say it. It irks him. It irks him on the inside. So, Swerve is prone. Hangman Page then turns his attention to Samoa Joe. Buckshot lariat number 1. Buckshot lariat number 2. Cover 1, 2, 3. But there was no referee. No referee, because Hangman Page screwed himself by incapacitating the referee. Then we get Bryce Remsburg, who comes in, counts the 1, 2. Joe kicks up, because obviously it's been like 10 seconds at that point, and Hangman is incensed. Hangman is absolutely incensed. He's losing it. And we have been seeing the breakdown of Hangman Page, the babyface, and into this dissension into madness as Hangman Page, because at this point he's like, I got a shot at the world title, might as well try, because Swerve is not going to get it right now. But even then, he's just like, man, I can't believe this match is still going on. Swerve still has a chance to win. Like, he's got to stop it. Swerve, Swerve then uses on the outside. He's at this point, like, coming to his senses, getting back up. Hangman Page, then goes for another buckshot. He gets caught by Samoa Joe into coquina clutch. Swerve, as Joe brings Hangman to the ground, and we all think that Hangman's going to tap out or he's going to lose consciousness, Swerve Scott interrupts with a sky twister off the top rope, basically a corkscrew moonsault off the top rope, breaks up the pin. Crowd goes crazy for this, absolutely nuts. Swerve then has a chance as Nana hands him the crown, the very crown that allowed him to pick up his first victory against Hangman Page. And Swerve thinks about it and says no. And it's not just because Swerve is kind of like, slowly becoming a babyface, but it's because at this point Swerve is like, if I'm going to win, I'm going to do it knowing that I'm the best. So he wants to do it the right way. Hangman Page, as Swerve hits his finisher on Joe, cover 1, 2. Hangman beats the shit out of Bryce Remsburg here. And I'm not even talking about he drags him out of the ring like he did Paul Turner. No, he starts wailing on Bryce Remsburg with reckless abandon. Beats the ever-living piss out of him. It was crazy. I haven't seen a referee get beaten up like that in a while. And at this point, Hangman is unhinged. He's lost all, he's just lost it, because, no matter what, Swerve cannot become the AEW World Champion. Swerve then hits a buckshot off the top rope, a spinning buckshot off the top rope. It was nuts on a Hangman. He hits a JLL driver, but Swerve is then tossed aside, suplexed by Samoa Joe, and then Joe steals the victory with a coquina clutch. But here's the kicker. Hangman Page didn't, pass out. Hangman Page did not pass out to the coquina clutch. Hangman Page saw Swerve in the corner of his eye, lurking, knowing that Swerve had a chance in a few seconds to break up that submission and potentially take advantage and pin Samoa Joe. So, in Hangman's mind, instead of, potentially allowing Swerve another shot at it, he said, I'm going to end his story right here. And he taps out to Joe. Because remember, for Hangman, it's not about winning. It's about making sure Swerve Strickland doesn't. Mwah. Chef's kiss for all you people who say AEW can't tell stories. They told a hell of a story here. Great match. Samoa Joe retains. I was skeptical about, Joe retaining, but I do think for the character of Swerve Strickland, this definitely does a lot moving forward. Like, there's a lot you can do with Swerve now, because there's a lot more sympathy for Swerve Strickland now. There's a lot more, in it for Swerve as a babyface. And I think that, like, the image of him in the ring, looking at that match and knowing that he was close, knowing that he had a chance, but he just wasn't fast enough. And it was one man's hatred that Swerve created. That hatred for Swerve that Hangman has is a Swerve creation. Because no matter what you want to say about Hangman, is he going too far, all that kind of stuff, remember, Swerve was the one who broke into his house. Swerve was the one who threatened his child. So for Hangman, it's personal. He doesn't care about the championship. He doesn't care about any of that. All he cares about is making sure that Swerve suffers. Mentally, physically, and spiritually, apparently, because he was pissed at Swerve. Fantastic match. And where do we go from here? Who knows? Obviously, Wardlow is next up for the AEW World Championship. Wardlow versus Samoa Joe, question mark. I ain't gonna say no, but it would be interesting. We got Blueprint in the chat saying 8 out of 10 show. Love AEW, man. I think like that's kind of where I'm falling on this, like an 8 out of 10. This is a really good show. I thought it was a really good show. I need some green tea. Stay hydrated, my friends. Guys, let me know what you guys thought of the show. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for daily news updates. Been going crazy with all the news and all that kind of stuff in professional wrestling, guys. So be sure to check all that out. What else we got? We got obviously we have the main event that I'm going to talk about, but let me just see. Let me see how the poll is doing. Let's see how this pay-per-view is being reviewed, how well it's being reviewed, what people think of it. So the poll right now is 52% think the pay-per-view was good, 4% say bad, 9% say meh, and 35% didn't watch. That's pretty much what I expected. All right. Moving on now. Got to talk about the main event. Sting's last match. If you have not seen the match, I'm not going to be able to do it justice. Stop watching this right now and go watch the match. Period. It's the only time I'll ever say stop watching this and go watch the match. But this show obviously was built around Sting's last match. This show was sold around Sting's last match. 16,000 tickets were sold around Sting's last match. And I said in a video over on youtube.com/WrestleVibes that Sting's run in AEW was perfect. And it deserved a perfect ending. And there is no other word to describe what we saw tonight other than perfect. Sting went out on his own terms. He went out doing what he loved for the fans that he loved and the fans who loved him. And it will go down as one of the best final matches of all time. Period. If you have not seen this match, please go watch it. But I will do my best now to talk about what I saw. I was enthralled. Ric Flair comes out. Obviously it's Sting's last match, Greensboro. Him and Sting had a great match in that same Coliseum in '88. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat comes out as well. He's also like someone who's been around Sting and kind of knows him from back in the day. So there's a lot of history surrounding the Coliseum. There's a lot of history surrounding this event. There's a lot of history surrounding Sting as well. Dude, he's 65 years old. Of course there's history around him, right? So they come out, they're at ringside. They're not on commentary. They're just at ringside because obviously they're going to get involved in the match somehow. Remember, this is a Texas tornado match, so anything goes. It's not false count anywhere, but anything goes. There's no legal men. It's just a free-for-all. So Sting, as Ric Flair likes to say. I'm getting ahead of myself, of course. Matthew and Nicholas Jackson come out, and they're wearing like white and black robes, potentially alluding to the white and black of Sting's colors. By the way, I'm wearing a Sting shirt. Had to. It's his show. And then Darby comes out, and screen cuts to black, and we get this really freaking cool, like, vignette, like, video package of, this movie theater, this empty movie theater, where it says the final showtime. And Sting walks into this empty movie theater as the curtains open, and he watches his career. And they show pictures and videos from his career going back to his days as with Jim Hellwig. They show his time in like WCW through New Japan footage. They show his time in, all across his career. And it was so freaking cool. It got me emotional. I think a lot of people were a little teary-eyed watching that. And then as the curtain closed in the video package, Sting was left alone in that movie theater saying, "It's showtime," for the final time. Looks down, looks back up. Let's do this. He comes out. Sorry, music plays. It's Sting's AEW theme. And then we see Surfer Sting come out. And it's, of course, one of his sons dressed up as Surfer Sting. And then his other son comes out dressed as, Wolfpack Sting with the red face paint. So cool. And then Tony Khan does us all a blessing and gets Seek and Destroy by Metallica to play Sting out in his final match. That was so cool. Crowd was singing along. They were absolutely loving it, as they should. Sting was getting a massive, massive reception. Perfect entrance. And they get right into it. Darby Allin and Darby Allin literally lunges himself at the Young Bucks at the first chance he gets. Sting throws his jacket at him. The match starts off insanity as Sting's sons deliver big stinger splashes. The second one, the one who was dressed up as Wolfpack Sting, by the way, in the red face paint, he was getting some hell of an elevation on his stinger splashes. Like he was like hopping in the air. This dude has white people can jump. Hell yeah, that movie was right. But it was that was really cool, and it was great to see, his sons get a little bit of revenge there. Crazy match. They start setting up tables. Sting at this point has a baseball bat in hand. He's beating down the Young Bucks, and they're getting their asses kicked. Sting then, remember, going into this match, by the way, Sting said this was going to be something people would never forget, and he was going to give it his all. I assumed that he was going to go a little crazy, but I didn't think that it was going to involve, glass plate, like glass, like windows or whatever. Like they literally brought out like these like panes of glass, like, and I'm like, what are they doing? It's like a 4 panes of glass. Darby Allin takes like stick steel chairs, sets them all next to each other, and puts the plane of glass like on the steel chairs. And I'm like, okay, this is gonna come back later. Sting breaks one of them with his bat. They put like another one in the ring, and I'm just like, oh god, someone's going to die. And I was pretty much accurate about that. Anyway, they move on. They all fight towards the entrance ramp. Sting and Darby Allin both take suplexes off of the stage onto tables down below as the momentum shifts towards the Young Bucks as they beat the ever-living crap out of Sting and Darby Allin. Until Darby Allin gets a little bit of energy back, he starts fighting off the Young Bucks. He takes Nicholas Jackson and he starts beating him down, and he has him like groggy right in front of where he set up the glass on the chairs. And Darby then climbs a ladder in the ring and does a swanton. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, the spot is crazy. Darby does a swanton bomb onto a plate of glass and cuts his back into bits. There was so much blood. That was not, people, you want to say wrestling is fake. That shit was not fake. Darby Allin is a wrestler. Like, it was crazy. He was bleeding. I thought he probably killed himself in doing that bump, but he somehow managed to survive. But yeah, no, that was nuts. Absolutely nuts. So Darby's basically taken out at this point, and the Young Bucks really have the momentum on their side. They're beating down Sting. They put him through a table. Sting obviously gets up. They hit him with super kicks in stereo. Sting keeps fighting back, kicking out. And then finally, they go for their finisher. They go for the TK driver. They hit it, and Sting still kicks out. And the Young Bucks are left going like, WTF? What are we do? What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do to put him away? So then Matt Jackson goes to grab the world title belts, and he's stopped by Ricky Steamboat, and then he obviously like clubs Ricky. Ric Flair then takes this opportunity to get into the ring, and for the first time in his career, instead of turning his back on Sting, instead of, going behind Sting's back, instead of turning on him, he protects his longtime nemesis. He protects Sting. And that was really cool to see. I'm not a fan of Ric Flair or any of that stuff, but like, given the history, it was kind of a cool spot, and I understand what they were doing there. So then obviously they super kick Ric Flair. They super kick Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, who takes a hell of a bump, by the way. My God. And Ric Flair bumped into glass. Like, that was crazy. They go again now to attack Sting, and Sting just goes nuts on him. Darby Allin then gives him a hand as he throws Nick Jackson through a table. He then hits a coffin drop onto Matt Jackson, and Sting locks in the Scorpion Deathlock as Matt Jackson taps out. And still, for the final time, your AEW World Tag Team Champions, Darby Allin and Sting, going out a winner, 16,000 plus cheering him on. For the final time, Sting. An epic moment for an epic wrestler. An iconic match for an iconic talent. And a superb ending to an absolutely spectacular career. No other way to say it. Sting is one of the best. He will go down as one of the best. What he was able to do tonight, and the way he was able to make people were crying. There were people in tears, and AEW caught a lot of this on camera. People were in tears. as this show went off the air. Because, and it's the beautiful thing about professional wrestling sometimes. It is truly a beautiful business when you get down to it. Because you can have the emotional highs of this, the emotional lows of something like, the All-Star Spectacular, the absolutely, like, the sprint that was Takeshita versus Osprey, and then the ending here, like, the fact that you can have all that on one show, I think it's kind of dope. I know, like, I read a lot into professional wrestling, do a YouTube channel about it. I watch a lot of it. It'd be like that. I'm probably going to Dynasty, looking up ticket prices like right now. This was cool. This was so cool. I'm glad that Sting got to go out this way. There was no better way. And you can say the WWE would have done it better. That's fine. They could have. But in reality, AEW had a chance to do it, and they did. And they did right by Sting. And this is something that people can go back and watch decades from now. And it's going to be awesome. And I don't even know what else I can say. 10 out of 10. 15 stars. Meltzer is going to give this a 5 stars. He should. This was a 5-star match. I love this. Yeah, man. God, Sting is so freaking cool. Like at the end of the day, I keep coming back to that. Sting is just so freaking cool. Like, how can you hate him? How could you not? Like, if you watch this and you don't feel something, man, I don't know what to tell you. Farewell, Sting. Thank you so much for the memories. Thank you so much for this wonderful ending. Thank you so much for being one of the nicest dudes in professional wrestling. Thank you so much for being one of the most respected dudes in professional wrestling. Thank you so much for being iconic. And thank you all for tuning in to this stream. Appreciate every single one of you tuned in, whether you tuned in live or you tuning in on demand. Really warms my heart. Thank you so much. Epic night of professional wrestling. If I had to give this show like a rating out of 10, I'd probably go with what Blueprint in the chat said, 8 out of 10. I'll stick with that. I thought this was an excellent show by AEW with like I think the match of the year with Osprey and Takeshita, and the moment of the year so far with Sting and Darby Allin for sure. So, shout out to Sting in his last match. Shout out to Osprey in his debut. Shout out to Swerve, who's still going to be fighting for that world title. And shout out to all of you. Smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Until next time, everyone, be happy, be healthy, and as always, keep it real. We're out.